We were given 2 regions in Pokemon that represent the US, but I just don't think they represent it very well. So in this series, I take another stab at the US Pokemon region by creating a new Pokemon for each of the 50 states. Check out some of the earlier videos in this series to see some of the Pokemon we've already done. Let's start today's video off with Michigan, the Mitten State, named so for its adorable mitten shape, except for that random bit of land over there that's called the Upper Peninsula, or UP for short. Thanks to that extra bit of land, Michigan has access to 4 of the 5 Great Lakes, some of the largest in the world. No, seriously, Lake Superior is the largest freshwater lake in the world. And actually, Lake Huron is number 3, Lake Michigan is number 4, and since we're already bragging, Lake Erie is number 10. So literally, every lake bordering Michigan is in the top 10 largest in the world. So naturally, if Michigan were to only have one Pokemon native to Michigan, it would have to be a water type. Probably a fish, coveted by fishermen everywhere. Say hello to Fish Fry, the baby fish Pokemon. When first discovered, these Pokemon were thought to be fry, or baby fish, early in their life cycle. So they were called fry, referring to the life stage between larva and juvenile fish. And the name just kinda stuck, probably due to their small size and the common nickname small fry. Despite their small size, these Pokemon are actually fully grown, and they just don't get much larger until they evolve. These Pokemon are unique due to their schooling ability that allows them to school together to form a tight group that becomes much stronger and so streamlined that they can reach incredible speeds. It's one of the few Pokemon that are actually more powerful when not evolved, but only if you have more than one on your team. Evolving with a Water Stone, they become Frostpike, the frozen pike Pokemon. They develop a hardened layer of ice around their head and see a decent increase to their defensive stats. It's believed that once they evolve, they're no longer welcome in the school and are forced to leave the group. This is likely why they developed increased defensive capabilities, as they're forced to be alone for the first time in their lives. This traumatic change leaves Frostpike quite shy and not easily trusting. Forming a bond with one can be challenging but rewarding. Our next Pokemon is native to Minnesota. This state is so American. The winters are cold, the summers are hot, there's forests, lakes, prairies, and professional sports teams. It's also amongst the states with the largest populations of bald eagles. So Minnesota's Pokemon is based on the bald eagle, the most American bird that exists. This is Quiver, the baby bald eagle Pokemon. There's several interesting things about this bird, the first being that it's an ice type. Very few birds are able to tolerate the cold, which is why flying types are weak to ice type. Most birds migrate when the weather starts to cool down and fly somewhere warmer to hang out during the winter. A couple of exceptions are penguins and snowy owls. Penguins are quite different from most birds in that they have a thick layer of blubber to insulate themselves and keep warm in the coldest environments. This isn't seen often in other bird species because it leaves them unable to fly, flight being kind of the main thing birds do. The snowy owl is perfectly capable of flight, but somehow keeps warm with thick feathers and a hearty diet. That's right, they eat large amounts of food in winter to maintain a faster heart rate and accommodate more movement, like shivering to stay warm. Quiver's name is derived from the word quiver, which has a double meaning. The first is to shake or tremble, which is connected to the bird's efforts to stay warm in the winter. The second is a portable case for holding arrows. This connection is significant because of the Pokemon's main self-defense strategy. They fling ice that has frozen on their feathers as a frozen projectile. The result is something like icicles being hurled at you at high speeds. Quiver evolves into Frostbow. Once fully grown, these Pokemon spend most of their lives flying at very high altitudes. Their ability to withstand incredibly cold conditions allow them to exist relatively alone and without fear of attack or competition. Just as Quiver uses the ice as projectiles, Frostbow have further evolved to freeze their own feathers and launch them as projectiles. This improvement in their attack inspired the name's connection to the word crossbow, an enhanced version of the original bow. The only time you'll see one of these majestic creatures is likely during the winter, when they drop to lower altitudes to mate and lay eggs. You'll likely find them on top of tall trees, probably nesting. That being said, be careful who you pick a fight with, a nesting mother will lay you out. For our next Pokemon, we're back in the South in Mississippi, another state with agriculture as its top industry, but this state's top crop might not be what you'd expect. Mississippi leads the country in catfish production. They began commercially producing catfish around 1965 for a variety of reasons, but they now hold the title as Catfish Capital of the World. Catfish are named for their whisker-like barbels that resemble a cat's whiskers, although that's where the resemblance ends. This is Whiskerine, the catfish Pokemon. The name is derivative of the shared whiskers between catfish and their feline namesake, and the word marine. Marine is often used as a prefix or suffix to mean related to the ocean. The word submarine, for example, means under the ocean if broken down. Whiskerine and submarines share more than just etymology, as these Pokemon are so large, they're often mistaken for small submarines by modern radar equipment. It's still unknown what it is about them that affects modern imaging this way. Little is known about these creatures as they're very difficult to access. One theory is that they're a dual water and steel type, and their skin is some harder metallic material. The only way for us to know for sure is for someone to catch one. If you ever catch one, you'll either be killed by the FBI or offered a lot of money. Are you ready to take on that challenge? Next up is Missouri. Missouri isn't known for much in particular, but they sure do have a decent football team. And nothing is more American than football. I say this because Americans are pretty well known for being loud and wrong, and nothing is more loud and wrong than American football. Before you sharpen your pitchforks, what I mean is that the rest of the world knows football as this. And the USA instead changed some things about rugby and called it football. Not only that, but if the US did have any unique culture, it would definitely include Super Bowl parties. All of that being said, football teams change all the time. There's no best football team, with players joining, retiring, and being traded. Certainly there have been some famous all-star players that will stand out in history, but in recent history, the Kansas City Chiefs have stood out far amongst the rest. The team has faced a lot of controversy through the years, as the mascot, logo, and team name have been deemed disrespectful of Native American heritage. They haven't changed their name, but they have changed their mascot. Their mascot was a horse named Warpaint, and while Warpaint would make a much cooler Pokemon both in design and name, I'm going to base this Pokemon off the new mascot instead, KC. This is Lupus. The name is derived from the scientific name for wolves, Canis lupus, and the word ice, as we have another ice-type Pokemon. Ice-type Pokemon have long been neglected, and I think we deserve some strong ice types. Lupus live in packs and are very dangerous. Humans have domesticated lines of these Pokemon that serve as alternate forms, but the original parent line is very large, fierce, and terrifying. Unless you're an elite trainer, maybe stop by the animal shelter and pick up an alternate form instead, unless you think you can handle it. That wraps it up for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the designs, and as always, thanks for watching.